Happy snowy Sunday, YouTube. Back with another Leaf report. Vancouver was in town last night on Hockey Night in Canada, and this game was eerily similar to the game in Florida from a couple days before. The bulk of the scoring was done in the first period. The teams kind of traded goals, and it looked like we were in for, a super high scoring affair. And this was two young, highly offensive, capable teams. So, considering the amount of goals in the first period, everything was trending that way. But much like the Florida game, the bulk of the scoring was done in the first, and then a little bit in the third to decide it, and that was the game. So, and this one was funny too because it was both fourth lines that got each team going in the first period for the first goal, and it was the first shot on net for each team that went in. So it was like, oh no, here we go, right? So Leafs opened it first, just almost 3 minutes in. They were working it around the zone, and or they just entered the zone or something, and Freddie Gauthier just took it from the high slot and just wristed it past Demko, and then a couple minutes later, Vancouver responded with their fourth line. A minute after that, Matthews responded for the Leafs, putting them up 2-1, and it was a bizarre shot. Like, he just gained a head of steam down the left wing, and fired. He's got that quick little release on his wrist shot, and I don't know how it went in because the goalie had the ice pretty much sealed off, and he somehow slipped a low shot through him, and it was in and out so fast. Like, I was like, oh, he stopped that. Like, it was so weird. It was such a weird goal, but a great goal because that's just how good his shot is, right? And that was 2-1 Leafs. And then like a minute after that, Vancouver tied it up on a bit of they were working around down low, and it made a nice little play in tight cross crease, and things would stabilize there. Oh god, I yawn all the time. It's brutal. So it went to the break, tied 2-2. And then, much like the Florida game, it started off with a really high pace on each side. Both teams were into it. Both teams were skating hard, maximum effort, lots of goals in the first period. It looked like it was going to be super high scoring. And then in the second period, the Leafs took the game over for a while, played their best period of the game, and but then there was no more scoring. So it was like identical kind of to the Florida game. And then in the third period, that's when the Leafs would score to go up permanently. So it's, again, the exact same thing. So very similar, like I said. And in the third period, there was one player all game who had easily his best game of the season, and that was the Leafs' seventh defenseman, I guess, normally, Martin Marincin, who doesn't get into the lineup that often, only usually when somebody's injured or somebody needs to be a healthy scratch or something like that. He comes in to fill that gap. And now that they've got Muzzin, Riley, and Ceci out, and they're dressing 7 defensemen a game, he's one of those guys. And he's very much a stay-at-home defenseman. He doesn't have much offensive capability. And he's one of those guys that the more he plays, the better he gets. Like, if he only gets in every once in a while, it can be a bit of a scramble for him. But in this game, he was all over the place, and he was even down low, forechecking and getting it involved. So he easily had his most involved game of the year and his best game. And it was nice to see him get rewarded for it in the third period. Just 18 seconds in, he led a rush right as the period began. It was kind of just him and alone against one Vancouver defenseman, and he just a little toe drag, shot it from pretty far out, hit the crossbar, went in for his own rebound, and popped it by the goalie. And everybody, you could tell everybody was just like laughing and smiling and having fun with it, because here's a guy that never scores, right? And everybody knows he only gets in every once in a while. He's very much more a stay-at-home guy, so everybody was very happy for him to get this goal, especially since it's this type of situation where they're so banged up in the lineup. They're late in the season in this big playoff push, and this was the go-ahead goal late in the game, right? So it was kind of a nice little reward for him for having that really strong effort. So, and that's the way it would stay up until the end. The Canucks would press in the third. Freddie stood tall after a shaky start to the game, just like in Florida. He buckled things down the rest of the way and shut the Canucks down. And then, in the last minute, the Leafs made a really nice quick exit out of their zone once they got control of the puck, and a nice long looping pass to Hyman as he was blowing the zone, and he went in alone on the empty net and put the Leafs up 4-2 permanently. So that's the third really good effort by the Leafs in a row. And so you got to think at this point they finally did get that message. They realize what they have to do now, and because they've beaten some pretty good teams. I mean, Vancouver has been, they're kind of in the same situation the Leafs were a few years ago, where they're kind of early on in their rebuild, and they've fast-tracked a bit. They're a lot better than I think they were projecting themselves to be at this point in the rebuild. They're a good, young, fast, skilled team. So it's and they're right in the thick of the playoff hunt in their division. So the Leafs did well in getting rid of them. Tampa is one of the best teams in the league. They beat them. And then Florida, although they're behind the Leafs in the standings, that was a big game because they're the ones that are directly chasing Toronto. So that was a big pressure game. So you got to think these three last games in a row after that whole debacle, they've gotten the message. It's sunk in. The embarrassment kind of maybe was a kick in the ass. And the thing I like about it is that they're at least giving it 100%. That's all I ask of anybody ever, is just go out and give it all you got until it's over. And if you lose, that's the way it goes sometimes, but most times they're gonna win, right? So hopefully, I think they got the message right in the nick of time, and hopefully they can keep this run going, because if they do, they're gonna make it, and it's still gonna be close, but they would have gotten that message just in the nick of time. So yeah, fingers crossed. We'll see what comes this week. I have not looked at the schedule at all because I can barely stay awake at night. So there's other things that need to be done, like laundry and such, that I need to focus on more so than the Leaf schedule. But I'm sure they will have at least a couple games this week that I will be reporting on. So until then, stay warm. And who are we kidding? I'll be back with more stuff between those games anyway. So have a good one.